Hello and welcome to the Kick in the Creatives podcast, hosted by myself, Sandra Busby, and my fellow creative Tara Roskell, offering you interviews, inspiration, motivation, and a gentle prod in the right direction. And for lots more information, challenges, and other useful tools to help you get creating, you can go to www.kickinthecreatives.com. And of course, this is where you can also find today's show notes. Enjoy the show.
Today's guest is Deb Weiers, a mixed media artist based in Red Deer in Canada. So excited to have Deb on the show because when I first saw her work, I just thought, wow, all these amazing semi-abstract faces that were just so different to anything else I'd seen. She also manages to weave humour and different words into her art. And in this interview, she shares the fascinating process of how she creates her work, which is quite unusual.
We're so thrilled to have you on today. It's lovely to be able to have you on. And you're in Canada, aren't you? So isn't it amazing technology that we can just all have a chat and we're all in different parts of the world. But what we would really love to start with is basically where your creative journey began. So did you come from a creative background, Deb?
No, Mom was way too busy, Mom and Dad. There was no art in the family. The first time I discovered art was grade 6. Yeah. That was the first art class, was grade 6. And before that, we were 4 kids and 2 parents, and they were both working hard, Mom inside the home and Dad out. And yeah, there was no time. We played outside all the time. We were creative in our play and our imagination, and, we made up stuff, but nothing, I guess, like they do today.
So when you first had that art lesson at school, did you love it immediately?
Yes, absolutely. It was love at first sight, and ever since I've dabbled, like all my life. So I've dabbled at something.
Did you take the traditional route? Did you go to art college?
Not until I was 45. I think I was 45. I mostly throughout my life, I copied just pictures just for me and the family. And I did different mediums, pen and ink and macrame hangings and stained glass and just all over the place. And then I joined a calligraphy guild in Red Deer I think just before I was 40, and I always wanted to go to art school, but I thought you had to have a portfolio, and I didn't have one. So I never, ever tried to apply, and the gal encouraged me that I didn't need one and to just go apply, and that's how I did it and got in, and yeah.
So you're like me then, because I was a really late bloomer as well. I didn't start until I was in my sort of 30s, early 30s. And like you, I just assumed, you've got to have gone to art school before, what's the point in starting now? And now I look back and think that's such a ridiculous way to think. Because any age, it doesn't matter if it's in you, isn't it? And yes. So I'm surprised I just assumed you'd been doing this, all your life, to be honest. But you're based in Canada, as I said before, in Red Deer, is that right?
Yes.
So what's the art community like there?
The art community is pretty vibrant. I'm a farm girl, and we have, animals and gardens, and I'm a bit of I'm coming up 63, and I don't really go to town at night, so I'm not that involved in town. I've had a few little shows, but I don't go in at night, so I don't. My involvement is mostly online with the art community on there.
It sounds lovely living on a farm. Sounds like loads of inspiration there.
Oh yes, it's. I go to town about once a week in the day for some stuff, and I got to tell you, the energy in town just drains me. It's so peaceful out here.
But because you work on a farm, I would have said that you would be perhaps more likely to do animals, but but you do actual humans, don't you? So
yes,
yeah. You're never tempted to draw a cow then or something?
No, not farm animals. I do add cats and dogs and just odd critters that I make up into quite a bit of my work. But yeah, no, and it's all mostly from my imagination and yeah.
So have you always been drawn to painting faces, or have what you painted changed over time? And how did you get started with painting faces?
No, I haven't been always drawn to painting faces. I did anything but. And when I went to college, the figure drawing and painting was what I liked the least, which is interesting because now the faces is what I like the best. But I took an online class for drawing faces, and that got me started. And then I've been in love with them ever since.
So what did you like at college then? What were you drawing there?
Oh, I did a lot of kind of African art with lots of patterning and stuff in it. I love patterning. And it was just a basic 2-year course that you took everything, right? You took drawing and design and clay and painting, and took printmaking as well. And I like the more abstract gestural patterning, that kind of stuff. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It sounds just like our foundation courses over here, where you try a bit of everything to work out what you want to do next. Yeah. So I'm guessing that kind of African influence, is that something that's influenced your current style, or has that changed over time?
Well, I love anything tribal and the patterning in it, in so much tribal things, like decorations and stuff. So I'm so drawn to all that patterning. And that actually wasn't long. As soon as I learned how to draw a face kind of properly, I started putting patterns and words on it. And yeah, I think it affects my art to this day because I love decoration like that.
Yeah, it's really distinct, your art. You know, I can see it and you can immediately know it's yours, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the same thing. I've never seen any art like yours before. It's very distinct, very unique. And obviously this is something a lot of artists are striving to find, isn't it? A unique style. And, you know, some artists get quite obsessed about it, but struggle to find it. So what advice would you give to an artist who's actually trying to find their own unique style?
Okay, you see, when I started this, I had no plan for anything or agenda. I just like to work, so I just played and played and played and kept experimenting. And I would just say, put in the hours, try everything, like everything, and always experiment and push boundaries, because I believe that's how you find your marks too more. And figure out what your passions are, what you care about, because I truly believe that comes through, you know, and gives you drive to.
Was there a specific point that you remember where you sort of stood back and thought, I've got a style? You know, is it something you kind of stumbled over by accident? Because I know that it was a lot of people said to me, I like your style, way before I even realised I had one.
Oh yeah. I'm kind of the same. I think I didn't know. I was just doing my own thing, and yeah, and then people were, you have such a unique style, and I'm like, oh, do I? So yeah, same thing, I guess.
You mentioned that you took this class in learning how to draw faces, and I see that you've taken quite a lot of classes. You mention them in your hashtags.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's one thing that also helps you develop that?
Right. That was one of the things I wanted to mention for people wanting. I made some notes, but of course I forgot them. But anyway, yes, totally. That's what, trying all those different classes, all those different ideas and ways to create, and meeting all the different artists and sharing and talking and the community, it totally helped me to develop my style. I wouldn't be here if not for the classes.
So is there one class or two classes that have really stood out for you in really helping you along?
Oh, it's a tough one to say, because I feel I gain from everyone, and everybody's so different. Like online classes that I like, somebody else doesn't, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, and gosh, I've taken so many. It's It's a tough one to answer.
Okay, what was the face one called? Can you share that? The first one you did that got you into drawing faces?
Yes, it was called Let's Face It. It was a year-long class, and it had 18 teachers in it, I think. And throughout the year, each teacher taught two lessons, and it was through Kara Strachan-Bullock Art. And it's online, and she's done, I think, Let's Face It 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and a 2020 is coming up as well. And
I have seen that. Yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah. And I did teach a lesson in the 2017 after I took the 2016.
Cool.
Yeah, so
that's nice. Turning a bit to teaching as well.
Yeah, well, she helped me with the computer thing because I just can't do that. So that's what holds me back from trying to teach. And I suppose if I'm naming artists, I have to say Ardith Goodwin has been a huge influence in my development as an artist. And she's also an online class teacher.
So what is your process for creating a piece of art from the idea to the finished piece?
My process, I start with making some marks on a paper. Sometimes I'll gesso it and to get some texture on. Sometimes I'll just work on clear, no gesso. And I'll get some marks on just so that the page isn't blank. And then I'll drop a little ink on, spray some water on, and sometimes move it around and let it dry. And then I try to find an area for a face or some critters or, just find something to pull out of it. So I kind of use my imagination 90% of the time. And then I'll block out around the outside, white out the background, and start to develop the characters. And then color the background in the end and detail. And
so you sound like it's quite a method where you put marks down and see what you find. You don't plan what you're going to create in advance.
No, I'd say 90% of my work, I don't plan a thing. I start with marks, I find something, and then I develop it. And I forgot to mention, I love adding collage. So sometimes I'll just put a piece of paper, glue it on the page, and that'll give me an idea.
So do you ever use a reference image as a starting point to your work? Or I know you said that they're 90% from your imagination. When is it that you sort of think I'm going to use a reference for this?
I will use it. Sometimes I'll have a reference figure or face on the side so that if I want to look at some eye detail, I can look at it, but I don't use it to draw from.
And I've noticed as well that you often add words to your art, sometimes quite humorous as well.
Yes.
First of all, what I'm interested to know is, do the words come first and do you make the art to go with the words, or is it the other way around? Can you talk us through perhaps a couple of pieces and where the ideas come from?
I don't have my for the humor, I don't have my photos here, but yes, the words come after. I'll do the picture, and then the words either come during it or towards the end. And then for pieces like, I'm quite passionate about all sentient beings, and just caring for all beings, not just humans. So that often comes up in my work. And so when the words come in that situation, the piece is usually focused towards that, and then I add the words. And then the humor ones, they just happen. Like there's a certain look on the woman's face, a sour look or something, and the words kind of will just come.
I love the way you write it as well. Is that all hand done, or have you sort of created that sort of typeface?
Well, like I said, I was in the calligraphy guild here for many years. And so this is kind of my font that I've developed of my own. It's my own unique lettering, I guess you can say.
Yeah, because Tara, you once did that, didn't you? You were sort of putting font on a lot of your pieces, and somebody actually asked you, didn't they? What font are you using?
Yeah.
And you were like, well, it's just what I've done. I've made it up, and and it's sort of become almost unique to you, you know. So,
But mine was nowhere near as good as Deb's, so I have to say.
Oh, God.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Just different.
So when you're working on a piece and you decide to develop it more, because I've seen that you go back to some of your older pieces, do you just go for it, or do you make a copy and test it out first?
No, I just go for it because I like the risk staying in there, because I think that's where I grow, is by taking that risk. And if I'm careful, then I'm not pushing the boundaries. So no, I always just dive in, and if it goes wrong, I can always collage over and, you know, just keep working. I'm very stubborn. I get it from both sides of my family, and so I will pick away at something forever.
So did any of them not work, and you have to give up?
Not too many. There's maybe 1 in 30, I'd say.
Oh,
that's not bad.
No, very good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
But like I say, and sometimes I'll put it away for a year and then get it back out and then be able to work through it. So, you know, there's also a time process sometimes.
So is there a particular material that you just could not be without?
Yes, my FW inks. For sure. The De La Rowney FW acrylic artist inks.
So what's so special about those?
They're so rich and vibrant in their color, and they're fluid. Yeah. I absolutely love working in fluid medium of any sort. So, but there's so much, I find them so much more vibrant than watercolor. Yeah. And I like to work fast, so they're quick for me.
Does that lead to sort of happy accidents quite a lot as well, because they're quite...
Yes.
I'm presuming that's an important part of your process, is it?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and it does. And it, like I say, sometimes I'll put the inks on and spray some water on and then tip the page and they meld a little and let it, you know, so yeah, happy accidents for sure.
Do you ever work on more than one piece at once?
Yes, I try to always have at least 2 or 3 going. I'd like to have more, but at least 2 or 3 so that I can, if I'm stuck on one, I can go to the other and, you know, play on that one for a while.
Not while you're waiting for it to dry, because that's what I can't bear.
No.
Drying.
Yeah, I know. I'm too impatient.
You wouldn't like my kind of method then. Yeah, I use oils and I do mine in layers, and you know sometimes I take days before I can get onto the next layer.
Yes, so, I know.
You're more like Tara, where you want to get it done. Yeah,
quick.
Yeah.
So how often do you create?
I create daily. Some days, like because we grow all our own food and harvest it, we eat out of our garden year round through putting stuff away. So fall is so busy in summer, but even at the busiest times, even if I can get 15 minutes in to sit down and play, I'll do it and just add on to whatever I have going, you know, work on some piece. But some days I get like 6 hours and I'll work through that. Most days I work after supper right till bedtime, and then often early morning I get a few hours in too if I can. So,
is there a time of day where you often feel more creative than others? Because I know for me, if I haven't got my creative time in sort of by lunchtime, then that kind of side of me starts to break down a bit and I lose my mental energy, I think. So it's a morning for me.
Yeah, and also get distracted by other chores and stuff. Yeah. I like if I can get a couple hours in the morning and after supper, because my duties are all done for the day, so I can focus in then too. Quite easy. Unless I'm exhausted, then I can't.
No. But obviously, we know you love faces. Do you ever take a break from faces and draw other subjects, even just for your own personal work? Because, I'm a still life painter, but it's interesting because in my sketchbook, it's all about figures and anything but still life. So I'm just wondering whether you whether you do something similar.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, I'm kind of... No, well, like I say, I do the cats and dogs and funny little cartoon-like creatures. I've been doing these little 15-minute doodles on a 4x4 pieces of paper, and they're just like little people and critters and anything. It's a random word doodle app on the web, and they pick 2 words and then you draw something. And
right.
Yeah, it's really fun, and it just makes my brain work. And so I guess that's quite different from doing the faces.
I think one of my favourite pieces actually on your website is on the very first page, and it's like a person with a dog, and this dog's got a really cute long nose, and it's just, I loved it. It had such everything of yours has got character, but this little dog, it was just adorable.
That one was called Girl with Dog, and I remember that one well because I was very happy with that piece. And yeah.
It's definitely one of my favourite bits, I think. I really, really enjoyed looking. I enjoy looking at all of them, but that one just stood out for me for some reason. Maybe because I love dogs as well. That probably helps.
Well, that's where I think the connection between humans and animals, and when I combine the two, people really react to them because I think we do have such a connection.
So have you ever experienced artist's block? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Oh, yes, I have, and it quite regularly. But I have learned just over time and staying in the game, kind of like I just put a mark on a paper, and I know if I work, I'll get through it. Often, if I do a piece that I personally really like, that's the hardest time. Because I think, well, that's it, But I've just learned over time to put the pencil to paper and to make some marks and keep going, and to be willing to just not be looking for an outcome, just to play, I guess.
Yeah,
enjoy the process.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing sometimes is just starting when you're feeling that way, isn't it? And like you say, it's just a matter of putting the pencil down on the paper, and that's half the battle, isn't it?
That's exactly. Yeah.
Do you find as well, because I know if I draw something and I like it, other people might not, but they might like the ones you don't like.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
We're our own worst critics, aren't we? Don't you think?
Well,
we often don't know what people like and what people don't. Often what we think's great, somebody else doesn't, and then what we think's not so great, somebody else loves.
Yes, but I think that's because our personal taste is so much different for our own work. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I know, it's hard to explain, but yeah. I think it's
you know your mistakes, don't you? You know your own mistakes and where you went wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that too.
Can I just ask, your faces, obviously, that you draw, are they based on people you know? And if they are, do they know that?
Oh, yeah. No, they actually aren't. But my mother, who's coming up 92, and she lives in another house on property here, and she's totally self-sufficient yet, and she's the strongest, most humorous woman I've ever known, and she inspires me every day. So, and she's been through so much hardship and struggle in her life, and a lot of my faces relate to, I guess, her life and my life and everybody's lives who've been through stuff, and so they relate to people, but nobody specific. Like,
Yeah.
So which artists inspire you and why?
Okay, well, I wrote down 3. Linda Vacon, she's an artist in Montreal, and Veronica Kay, she's in the U.S., and of course, and Ralph Steadman has always inspired me. I actually saw his work years and years and years ago, and I loved it. And I think the reason they inspire me is because they stay loose and brave, and they're always pushing. And I really like the mark making of all three of them, and the way they portray figures and people, and yeah, and they're always experimenting, it seems.
You mentioned about they're loose and they're free. Is there a point during your process where you think, I need to stop? Because obviously a lot of artists struggle with that point, don't they, and overwork things. How do you know when your piece of art is finished?
Pretty much just a gut feeling, because as you know, I'm very much a detailed person on the end. And my work is very busy. I've had people say, I don't know how it can work being that busy. But there just comes a point where I know that's it. If I add more, it's just clutter.
So you seem to sell every piece of work you create. Do you remember the first piece you ever sold?
I don't remember, but I looked to see where, because now I document everything, of course, but I looked back, and the first piece I ever wrote down was February of 2016. It was Girl with a Pout, and it went to a gal in Pennsylvania.
So how did that moment feel to you? Because I remember the first time somebody bought a piece of my art, and I just remember thinking, really? Oh my gosh, wow, somebody actually wants to pay money for something I've done. And it was just amazing, that feeling. Did you feel like that when you first sold your first piece?
Yes, because never in my whole life did I ever expect to sell any art at all. And so for somebody to want to buy a piece of mine, it was thrilling, yes. And it still is. Every time somebody wants to buy a piece of my work, I'm absolutely thrilled because, it's just, I feel so grateful.
Do you ever feel a slight sense of loss, though, when you let one go? Because if you have, say, like a piece you really love, I've had this in the past where, in fact, it was quite recent, where I put a painting up and it sold instantly, which isn't usual, but it was one of those ones that I'd done and I thought, I'm so pleased with this. And it's kind of like you spend a long time on the process, don't you? And then you only, if that happens, it's like you only get a day or two with the joy of looking at it and it's gone. So do you ever feel like that? Do you ever feel almost sad when something goes?
Yes, I always say it's almost like birthing a baby, because you create this thing and then you have to let it go, right? And I do. I've got way better, and my husband helps because he's like, why pile it up? And I've kept very few pieces. I think I've kept maybe 6 pieces over everything I've done. And I've got at first it was hard to let them go. And sometimes I would, if somebody wanted a piece, I would still hang on to it for a while before I'd, agree to sell it. But now I've got to where I can let them go quite easily. So.
Do you do prints, though?
I didn't at all up until just recently, because to mail from Canada is quite pricey. Yeah. So that, is a hindrance. So people have asked for prints for a long time, and I haven't done it. But I just started doing a few. And, so I'm happy about that. It's worked out so far.
What tips have you got for someone who wants to sell their work?
Well, that's a tough one to answer, because I never went. It just kind of slowly came. But I would say for me, what really helped was the online community and the online classes and exposure and meeting other artists and sharing, because I guess it just makes you more visible, and you meet lots of people and you get a broader, like from home, I would never know anybody here. And also, I guess to not be focused on selling, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So you're just enjoying it, and selling it is the bonus sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important part, isn't it? It's got to be about the process before the sale, hasn't it? Otherwise, you're painting to sell, and it doesn't mean as much, does it?
Well, and I don't think you take the risks or do your own what wants to come out of you as much if you're doing it to cater to what somebody else likes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Now, I know you said you were just starting to do some prints, but I know you have actually got a book out, haven't you? Can you tell us a bit about your recent book?
Okay, it's called The Many Faces of Deb, and I had so many people asking me to do online classes, and I just can't because of my technical skills are so poor. So I wanted to share in some way, where people could have some of my work to look at and use to inspire them or whatever. So I thought of doing a book, and I found a Canadian self-publisher, and I wanted it to be a visual journey of my past 7 years. That's kind of the amount of time I've been working like hard and steady. And it was a long journey, and we got through some hurdles, and it's out there, and I'm really pleased with the end product, and I've had good feedback. And it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and bookdepository.com, which ships worldwide, I believe.
So has it got a bit about your process in there as well, or is it more a kind of gallery of all your work?
No, I didn't do process. I'm considering someday possibly doing another book with process and doing like quite a few of my pieces in there, and then also 4 or 5 process pieces all the way through. This one, because it was just, I didn't know what I was doing, so I just kept it simple.
Well, that brings us nicely to what the next question is, which is, what are your goals then for the future?
Okay, well, possibly another book. I want to live another 30 years. I'm coming up 63. And I want to live to at least 90 and hopefully create till the day I die. I want to keep always pushing and growing in my art. I don't want to get stale or stuck in a certain, kind of spot. I hope I never have to leave the farm. I'm so content here, and my travel days are over. It's not where I want to go.
Do you have a studio on your farm?
I actually work at the kitchen table.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, because I don't have a studio. I have a spare bedroom I have all my supplies in there, but basically it's the kitchen table.
It just goes to show, though, doesn't it? Because, a lot of artists say, I can't, an artist needs to have a studio. I don't have the space.
Yeah.
And you are obviously a prolific and very successful artist, and you don't have that studio. So it goes to show that that's not necessary at all.
No, not at all. And I'm so envious of some of those studios I see. I'm like, oh my goodness, what I could do with that space. But you know what? I love working where I work. And my poor husband, he gets about a quarter of the table, for this space.
Don't you worry about it, though? Don't you ever worry about him putting a cup of tea on
on
your piece of work and getting a coffee ring on it or something? Or would you just use that as part of your composition?
It would just add. It just adds more depth.
Yeah, I used to work in my kitchen, actually. This is before I had, because we've got a garage, and my husband, he converted the garage into a space specifically for my art, which is great. Oh, nice. But like you, once upon a time, I used to work in the kitchen, and I used to set up still lives in the kitchen. And one of them, this is when I was very first sort of learning, was obviously a really lovely sort of basket full of veg. And then my husband decided, when I was halfway through my still life, to cook a roast dinner. Oh. He didn't realise that I had set this thing up, and I went back to it and realised that it was all gone.
Oh no.
It was early days, and it was when I was first learning, so that was a good lesson for me.
Yeah.
On your kitchen table, are you just working flat, or do you have an easel or stuff on there?
No, I am working flat. My husband built me actually a beautiful little easel that you can set on the table, but it's not big enough for a bigger sheet. So I have to get him to make me another one. And all my detailing I have to do flat. When I'm doing the running, spritzing and stuff, I can have it upright, but all my detailing I kind of have to do flat. So yeah.
So where is the best place that people can find out more about you?
Well, I don't have a website or a shop, but I am on Facebook just as Deb Weiers, and it's public. And I'm also on Instagram as at Deb Weiers Art. And I'm also on Pinterest, Deb Weiers Bob Deb 2. Should get you to my page.
I'm really confused because I'm sure you've got a website.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'm sure I was on it earlier.
Okay, that's the website for the book. And
I
yeah, sorry about that. I don't know how to work it.
I was thinking, I'm not talking to the wrong Deb, am I?
No, I do get the emails from it, but I am so serious about my computer illiteracy that.
But even so, that website does give a very good idea of what you do.
Okay.
So I'd still recommend people go and visit it because you've got lovely images on there.
Yes.
I've got the URL actually, which is debweirsart.com. If anyone wants to have a look.
Okay.
Well, we'll put links to everything, obviously, where you are on the end of our show notes, as well as your book, so people will be able to find you.
Yeah, the publishers set that up for me. The book publisher.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
No, it's great. And just quickly, one thing I couldn't tell on that site was how big you work. I'm just interested to know.
You mean my body size?
No.
No, how big you work. In other words, how big are your pieces? Not
What a rude
not how big you
question,
work.
Sandra.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. Okay, the largest I work is kind of 15 by 22 or 17 by 22 because of shipping.
That's
If I go-
inches, or
Right.
is that inches? Yeah, will be.
Yes.
I just realised.
Yes. Yes.
And what are your
Oh, no, that's a
vital
lovely
statistics? No,
Yeah, and what your shoe size is.
Yes. It's a regular. It's 8.
Well, it's been a joy to talk to you today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, and thank you to the both of you. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you two. It's been exciting. It's fun.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, perhaps you'd like to share it and leave a review for us on iTunes.